using a fake ID, unmolested in this country for years. Police say he confessed to hiding the body in a cornfield. He later led them to the scene. The president posted a video on Twitter earlier today commenting on the murder. Here's part of it.
Molly Tibbetts, an incredible young woman, is now permanently separated from her family. A person came in from Mexico illegally and killed her. We need the wall. We need our immigration laws changed.
Crimes like this are, of course, embarrassingly inconvenient for the American media, which routinely, every day, remind us that illegal aliens are far more impressive than we are, and if we disagree with that, we're racist. So, of course, they all but ignored the murder of Molly Tibbetts. One of the few mentions came yesterday in MSNBC when a college professor called Christina Greer dismissed Tibbetts as some girl in Iowa.
They have been so willing to move the goalpost every single time with this president. I don't think that today changes much, unfortunately. I'm sure we'll hear what he has to say about this at his rally. But Fox News is talking about, you know, a girl in Iowa and not this.
A girl in Iowa. When you pay tuition, that's who gets it. Greer later, quote, apologized in the least sincere way possible on Twitter. She used her brief celebrity to whine about, quote, discriminatory immigration policy. Greer was, we think, the only person even to mention Molly Tibbetts all day on MSNBC. CNN was barely better. Its primetime lineup ignored it completely last night. That's not surprising, because for MSNBC and CNN and the people on whose behalf they speak, Tibbetts' entire existence is inconvenient. As a native-born American, she was problematic because she might not work for the low wages they would prefer to pay. Her vote would not be politically reliable. And now, as the victim of a murder, she is a problem because she explodes the lie they forced on us over and over. The lie that every illegal immigrant to America is superior to the people who already live here. That they're so good and so noble that it is immoral for us to enforce our border laws or to exercise control over who enters this country. To them, Molly Tibbetts really is just some girl in Iowa. And the fewer of those there are, the better. Alex Norastra is Senior Immigration Policy Analyst at the Cato Institute in Washington. He joins us tonight. Alex, I wonder, let me ask you a broader question first. Why is it the instinct of people like Professor Greer, people like you, to minimize crimes like this, to attack people who are bothered by them or fearful when they see a crime like this? Why not just concede that this is real? Why attack people who are upset by it?
Well, I haven't attacked anybody who's upset by it. I've acknowledged that this is a terrible crime, that this murder is a heinous act, and that person who committed it, if they're convicted by a court of law, should be punished to the full extent of the law. I can't speak for what the professor has written about this, but this is definitely a horrible tragedy, and I've not tried to minimize it in any way.
Well, sure, because immediately you hear people say, and I'm sure you will say in a minute, don't use this crime to tar the reputation of every illegal alien. I think most people look at this and say, if you're in our country illegally, a single crime is too many. I mean, talk about adding outrage to insult, already breaking our laws and then committing crimes. And there are an awful lot of crimes committed by people here illegally and by non-citizens more broadly. The U.S. Sentencing Commission says 44% of all federal inmates are non-citizens. That's a huge number. Why wouldn't we be upset by that?
Yeah, so that federal data is only for federal prisoners. As you probably know,
That's right.
Federal prisoners account for fewer than 10% of all prisoners in the United States, and that's not representative of other crimes. To give you an example, in 2016, there were almost 18,000 homicide convictions in the United States, but only 85 through the federal courts because they simply don't prosecute homicide. So if you want to take a look nationwide at convictions and incarcerations of people by immigration status, that's a much better way to do it, and then you get
it would be. Hold on, it would be, but we don't have those data. The most comprehensive data we have are from the federal system, and
no,
so
that's
when
not true.
44, it is true actually. Not every state keeps those data. I know the answer to this question.
The state of Texas does. The state of Texas actually does record convictions by immigration status, and Texas is a great state, has a lot of illegal immigrants.
But hold on, wait. Why are you blowing past this? If 44%, about 7% of the country is illegal aliens, we think 44% of all federal inmates are non-citizens. So how do you explain that? Is that I thought every non-citizen was better than a citizen.
Well, they're not, obviously, but immigration laws are prosecuted by the federal government. Drug laws that people crossing the border are prosecuted by the federal government. Those are federal crimes. If you're interested in things like murder, which this woman, Molly Tibbetts, was murdered in Iowa, a person who is convicted by that is going to be in state court. So when you take a look at convictions of homicide at the state level in Texas, illegal immigrants are 44% less likely to be convicted of homicide than native-born Americans in 2016.
But murder is not, but hold on. Murder is not the only crime. So you had 71,000 Americans die last year of drug ODs. The majority of opiates, heroin, come through Mexico. So Mexican drug trafficking, conducted largely by people here illegally, is not a small thing at all and results in a lot of deaths. They're not counted as homicides, but they are, in effect, homicides. And to listen to you, it's like we don't have a right to be worried about that.
No, they absolutely do, but a lot of those
they're dying. They're dying because of drug ODs.
Died from alcohol poisoning during the Prohibition in the 1930s.
Actually, Alex, people still die of cirrhosis, and alcohol is legal. If you get so libertarian that you get demented, okay, I'm not in favor of prohibition. I'm merely pointing out that these drugs come from Mexico, and we have a right to be upset. Are you bothered by the fact that this guy used a fake federal ID for a number of years? What? Okay, but why is it that apologists for illegal immigration like yourself gloss over that? If I use a fake ID, if I show up and am hired under another name and a fake social security number, I go to jail for that. But it's totally cool when illegals do it because why? Because they work for the companies that give you money? Is that why? Or what is the answer?
Oh, no, Tucker. The problem is a lot of bad federal laws incentivize identity theft. If you have to have a piece of paper in order to get a job in this country, then people are going to steal those pieces of paper in order to get it. It's going to create a black market. This goes back to the prohibition point. If you make illegal what people want, they're going to forge these documents.
Okay, so if you want to reduce crimes, right, make things legal. But you're not really answering my question, which is, why should I live in a country where, as a citizen, I am gravely and profoundly punished for identity theft, but over 10 million illegals are not? And people like you don't think they should be. But I am punished for that. If I were to use someone else's social security number, I certainly haven't, because I would be punished for it. And I don't want it.
Lots of people are punished for identity theft.
More than
immigrants.
More than 10 million people are living and working in this country using fake federal identification. They are not punished for that. You don't think they should be punished for it. I would be punished if I did it. Do you see the double standard? You defend the rights of people who aren't even citizens, and actual citizens like me would go to jail for it. Do you see why that might grate on us a little bit?
Americans or foreign-born people should have to prove and ask the government for permission by showing a piece of paper to get a job. That's not what this country is about. Is asking for permission, showing a government piece of paper.
Well, slow down. How about fly on an airplane? How about operate a motor vehicle? Those require state government IDs. Should we get rid of driver's licenses too?
Well, some IDs are necessary to protect people if you're going to harm somebody.
Some IDs are necessary.
How does me working at a movie theater or working at a nursery damage other people like that? I mean, I'm not sure about driver's licenses, but when it comes...
licenses. Okay.
Why do I have to ask permission from the federal government to get a job, Tucker? Why do you want me to do that? Where does it say that in the Constitution?
Why to drive a car? Right.
That's on the state level.
I'm not going to.
That's on the state level, Tucker.
I don't argue with you about IDs. I'm just saying there's one standard for people here illegally. They have champions like you, and American citizens don't. And that's annoying to normal people.
Every law that you want to use to punish illegal immigrants is going to be used against native-born Americans, too. I have to fill out these stupid forms whenever I get a job because nativists want me to be able to prove that I'm legally eligible to work in the United States. If E-Verify is in effect that my job might...
Right. Alex, thanks. Instead of protecting America from potentially dangerous illegal immigrants, one of the left's top political priorities is abolishing ICE. That is, of course, the agency tasked with removing dangerous immigrants who are violating our laws from this country.
Say it loud, say it clear. ICE is never welcome here.
And as AG and as a candidate for AG, I feel like it's really important to speak out to abolish ICE.
We should protect families that need our help, and that is not what ICE is doing today, and that's why I believe you should get rid of it, start over, reimagine it, and build something that actually works.
Abolish ICE! Abolish ICE! Abolish ICE!
A lot of concern from the families of illegal aliens, not much concern for the family of Molly Tibbetts. That tells you everything. Thomas Homan is former acting director of ICE, and he joins us tonight. Mr. Homan, thank you very much for coming on. Let's just get to the practical part. There's a wave building on the left. I think it's entirely possible, probably likely, that Democrats take the House of Representatives. There will be a move to abolish ICE. What would happen if that were successful?
Well, the president's right. It equals open borders. If you enter this country illegally and happen to get by the Border Patrol, no one's looking for you. If you get arrested by the Border Patrol and get released because you're waiting to see a judge and you don't show up in court, or you show up in court and get an order removal and you don't leave, like over 500,000 fugitives currently exist in this country, no one's looking for you. If you get a visa to come visit this country and you don't leave, no one's looking for you. So the president's right. Abolishing ICE equals open borders. Less criminal aliens be arrested, less drug traffickers be arrested, less child predators be arrested, less children be saved from child predators. It's just terrible to even think about.
So let's say you work for ICE, and you did, of course, you ran it. But let's say you're an ICE agent, you're a federal law enforcement agent, and you turn on the television and elected officials or people running for office are calling you a racist. They're comparing you to the Nazis. They're saying that your job should be eliminated because you are a criminal. What's that like?
Well, first of all, look, it's insulting, right? They are pointing the finger at sworn law enforcement officers, vilifying them for enforcing laws that Congress enacted. I just watched the video clip. I am a native New Yorker, and I'm disgusted by the governor of New York, Cuomo, and Senator Gillibrand. You know, I've done more for the safety and security in New York State by arresting 5,000 criminal aliens off the street in New York that walked out of their sanctuary jails. You know, they all say concentrate on criminals, but you can't come into our jail. It's a ridiculous argument. But they're not going to bully ICE for not doing our jobs. I had 80 protesters at my house 2 weeks after I retired. They're not going to shut me up. I'm going to keep fighting this fight, and we're going to prove to the American people that ICE is a very important agency that does a lot of important national. Look, ICE last year prevented 8,000 people from getting a visa to come to this country that had derogatory information that would do harm to this country. ICE arrested drug traffickers, gun traffickers, drugs. They saved almost 1,000 children from child predators. ICE is an agency full of patriots that are protecting this nation.
I think normal people understand that. Mr. Truman, thanks very much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, the left doesn't want a debate over statues. They don't want a democratic process to decide what happens to controversial statues. Instead, they sic the mob. So in North Carolina, they got their way. They used violence. We'll discuss the growing threat of leftist mob violence to our democracy next. Well, for more than a century, a statue at the University of North Carolina commemorated alumni who died fighting for the South in the Civil War. Since then, it has been frequently protested. It's remained standing and has itself become a key part of campus history. But none of that means anything to the modern left. 2 nights ago, a mob of angry children trying out for Chairman Mao's Red Guards apparently pulled the statue down while law enforcement let them do it. The point isn't how you feel about Confederate statues. A lot of reasonable people think they're appalling. They make a strong case for that. It doesn't matter. What you just saw is barbaric, and it's an attack on democracy itself. Polls consistently show that Americans believe the monument should be left standing rather than change their minds. And you can make an argument and change their minds. The left doesn't want to do that. It uses the mob to get its way, and they keep doing it until the law stands up to them, which it these days rarely does. Bob Woodson is president and founder of the Woodson Center and author of The Triumphs of Joseph, and he joins us tonight. Mr. Woodson, thanks a lot for joining us.
Pleased to be here, Tucker.
I assume you're not a supporter of Confederate statues, but tell me what you think when you watch that video.
I'm outraged that, as a veteran of the Civil Rights Movement, we fought to fulfill the dream of America. We supported our founding values and our principles. And we also didn't destroy anything in the name of justice. For those people out there who are supposed to be heirs of that legacy, they are a fraud. I'm against taking those statues down. To remember something doesn't mean that you're celebrating it. The Jewish people brought the Holocaust Museum because they said it's important to remember it. As a Christian, we remember the cross not because it celebrates Roman oppression, because it is victory over death that we celebrate, is resurrection. So it's important to apply your own narrative to these symbols. But I think what is being done there is an outrage, and these are anarchists. They are not freedom fighters. And those of us who are in the civil rights movement should speak out against this outrage.
So you're saying that having the statue up is not a celebration of the Confederacy. No. It's a way for the rest of us to remember what it was and the triumph over it by the United States.
And that's right. And it's also being just misused by members of the left to really denigrate the values of this nation. That's what it is. And they're using race. But what it does, Tucker, also is deflects attention away from the more critical issues that we're facing, particularly in Black America, where we have more blacks killed in 1 year than were killed in 70 years, lynched in 70 years. Between 1873 and 1950, 4,000 blacks were lynched brutally. But 6,000 blacks were killed in 1 year. And taking a Confederate statue down does nothing for saving a life in Chicago. But we're talking about statues and not the realities that are confronting thousands of people who are losing their lives today. There's where we ought to be putting our time and our attention.
Exactly. And none of these people cares at all. Mr. Whitson, thank you very much. It's an honor to have you tonight.
And thank you.
A lot happened today with Michael Cohen. We'll discuss the guilty plea of President Trump's personal attorney and what it means. Stay tuned. Well, as you no doubt saw, the president's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, pleaded guilty yesterday to a number of criminal charges, but some of them stemmed from a payment that he made to porn star Stormy Daniels. For that and other things, he is facing 3 to 5 years in prison. You're hearing in cable news that this could be the death knell of the Trump administration, and who knows what lies ahead. But it does raise a number of interesting questions about the crime itself, beginning with, was it a crime? Chris Hahn joins us tonight to sort this out. Chris, thanks a lot for coming on tonight.
Anytime.
So, I mean, I guess if I'd asked you 20 years ago, do you think that you'd be leading the charge to remove a president from office over his sex life? You probably wouldn't have thought that you would ever find yourself here. But let me ask you this. If you are approached by someone who says, give me money or I will embarrass you, isn't that extortion?
It is extortion, and I have no problem with the president's sex life. I think only Melania Trump should have a problem with his sex life if she does. But that said, what the president is being accused of is directing Michael Cohen to commit a federal election crime, which is a felony. Right, and if that is true, this is something Congress should investigate.
It may or may not be a federal election crime. It may or may not be a felony. Most are civil offenses, as you know. But let's just get back to the core event here. Stormy Daniels apparently said to Donald Trump through his attorney, give me money or I will embarrass you. Now, you just conceded that is extortion. If that happened to you, I think you would consider it extortion. I know I would if it happened to me. Why do we not consider it extortion in this case? Why are we celebrating her lawyer, celebrating her? You just said it was extortion.
Well, I don't know.
Shouldn't someone get on this?
I don't know. I don't know that Stormy Daniels said, give me money or I will tell. I think Stormy Daniels said, I will tell. And the president said, wait, let me give you money so you don't tell, which is what happened with Catherine McDougal and which may have happened with others. And I think we're going to find out. But I don't think.
Wait, stop for 1 second here. So you're saying what we already know, which is she took money in order to remain silent, which means that if she hadn't taken money, she talked anyway, of course. But the implication is, I mean, Trump doesn't like to spend money on anything, as you know. The cheapest man in the world.
Yeah. Well, he got a bad deal. She didn't stay quiet.
Well, all right. But the deal was extortion. So, I mean, look, I'm not defending this. I don't think the president's telling the truth about it. I think he probably did have a relationship with her. I'm not like, okay, but it's still extortion.
Tucker.
So, like, why are we excusing that? It's a serious, sincere question.
Tucker, it's extortion if she asked him for the money. It's not extortion if he offers her the money. So let's be clear here. And the president of the United States,
this is ridiculous. The president's like, oh, I want to give you money.
It's not extortion. The crime is directing somebody to commit a crime. And who knows what else we're going to find out.
But hold on, wait. Let me just ask you. So the idea here, and it's a stupid idea, I would say, is that this was a campaign contribution. And so the implication is that if it had come out that Trump had a relationship with a porn star, people would have been totally shocked and wouldn't have voted for him, because that just doesn't sound like the Donald Trump they knew. I mean, that's like ridiculous, actually. This wasn't a campaign contribution.
Well, that's what
this was hush money paid to a porn star. And like, that's what it is. It's not a crime. It's embarrassing. I mean, honestly.
According to what we heard in court yesterday, according to what we heard in court yesterday, the president was concerned that this and other things would come out, and he directed Michael Cohen to commit a campaign finance violation. That is different than collecting a little bit too much money. The candidate himself directed, if that's true.
I got it. I read the newspapers. I watch all the other channels. It's a campaign finance. How is it a campaign finance violation? Speak slowly so I can understand. How is this a campaign donation? This is a payment to a former girlfriend. How is that a campaign donation?
Anything gained of value in a campaign is a campaign donation. That is very clear in campaign finance law.
Is that true? So if my stock portfolio,
that's
actually not the law.
Giving money to somebody for something of value is definitely it's an in-kind campaign. And it's over the limit.
No, it's okay. No, it's not. That is what you just said is factually untrue. When I run, if I run for office, hold on. Let me finish my sentence. If I run for office, I do not relinquish my right to make money. If I mow your lawn and I'm running for the Senate and you pay me for that, that's not a campaign contribution. Not all money a candidate takes is a campaign contribution. How is a payment to an old girlfriend a campaign contribution? It's not. I mean, like how?
Because Michael Cohen.
15 seconds. Explain it.
Michael Cohen paid that money to avoid the embarrassment the last days of the campaign at the direction of the candidate, if that's true. And if that happens, that is a campaign finance violation. And it is particularly egregious because the candidate himself directed it.
But of course he directed it. Of course, I don't care what they say. Of course he did. He's a married man with kids.
Then he's guilty.
He slept with a porn star. He's guilty of doing what like 50 people I know have done, which is done something awful, and you pay the person off.
But
I think it's extortion. It's incredibly common, as you know. No, he was a candidate, and he still has a wife and kids. How is that a campaign contribution? It's not. It's an effort to keep your girlfriend from talking.
There is a lawyer who went in federal court yesterday and swore an oath that it was for the campaign. That is what the president is dealing with, and that's what Congress should be investigating right now.
Okay, they should impeach him then.
Well, Congress should investigate it. Congress should do its job and get to the bottom of it.
Get to the bottom of it. We already got to the bottom of it. He paid off his girlfriend and got caught. That's the bottom of it. It's so dumb. I can't even deal with it. We're out of time.
I don't think it's the bottom. I think it's just the surface. We'll see.
There's more. There's more. Yeah, right. There's more. No, he paid off his girlfriend. Please. There's no more. South Africa's government has begun seizing the property of some of its citizens based on their skin color. Does our government care? No. They applaud it. The State Department just sent us an unbelievable statement, and we will share that with you next. And it's going to make you mad. It should make you mad. We've got an exclusive investigation for you tonight. The president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, has begun, and you may have seen this in the press, seizing land from his own citizens without compensation because they are the wrong skin color. That is literally the definition of racism. Racism is what our elites say they dislike most. Donald Trump is a racist, they say. But they paid no attention to this at all. In fact, Ramaphosa is one of Barack Obama's favorite leaders in the world. In a speech just a few weeks ago, Obama praised him. He praised the racist government of South Africa and Ramaphosa by name for, quote, inspiring hope throughout the country. Does our current bureaucratic elite agree with that? Apparently they do. We called over to the State Department for comment on South Africa's land seizures which should be getting worldwide attention because they are immoral but are getting basically none. And the State Department replied with what is honestly an unbelievable statement. We're going to quote it for you at length. Here it is, quote, "We are aware of these reports and have been following this issue very closely for some time. South Africa is a strong democracy with resilient institutions, including a free press and an independent judiciary. South Africans are grappling with the difficult issue of land reform through an open process, including public hearings, broad-based consultations, and active civil society engagement. President Ramaphosa has pledged that the land reform process will follow the rule of law and its implementation will not adversely affect economic growth, agricultural production, or food security." End quote. State Department did not mention that by following the rule of law, he has changed the country's constitution to make it possible to steal land from people because they are the wrong skin color. In other words, nothing to see here, says Mike Pompeo's State Department. It's totally okay for South Africa to steal property for racist reasons because they are, quote, a strong democracy and held, quote, public hearings. Criminals, take note, find a buddy, start robbing State Department employees on their way to work. By their logic, as long as you outnumber them, they'll be okay with getting robbed because it's democracy. Marion Tupy is from South Africa. He spent a lot of time studying that country and the region. He now works at the Center for Global Liberty and Prosperity at the Cato Institute. We talked to him about this recently. Here's our conversation. I thought the whole point of the new South Africa and the reason the rest of us were excited to see it in 1994 take shape is because it rejected racial discrimination. And yet the government is now embracing it. Or am I missing something?
No. In a free and civilized society, we don't take people's stuff on the basis of the color of their skin. It was wrong when it took place under apartheid. It is wrong now. And it would be a tragedy if South Africa were to repeat the same mistakes it did in the past.
So there are really two levels here. First is the moral level, and you and I are in agreement that it's always wrong to punish people for what they look like. But second is the effect that it will have. We saw something similar to this happen in neighboring Zimbabwe. What happened when land was seized there on the basis of skin color?
18 years ago, the governing party of Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF, was threatened with electoral loss. And in order to shore up its support amongst the electorate, it decided to expropriate the farmers of Zimbabwe. What that led to, aside from horrific violence, was a total economic collapse of the country. Half a century of economic growth was wiped out in Zimbabwe as a result of this particular policy. The country experienced hyperinflation and had to abandon its currency. The country's unemployment rate was roughly 90%. Life expectancy plummeted. Child mortality increased. And, of course, the agricultural production has collapsed and hunger ensued.
So the Western media, particularly the media of the United States, has resolutely ignored this. This didn't just happen today. This has been unfolding over a period of years. The Trump administration has not weighed in on this. How should the U.S. administration respond to this human rights tragedy that we're watching unfold?
Well, the first thing that needs to be made clear is to denounce the policy. The administration needs to make it very clear that it is both immoral, because it targets a specific group of people, and I thought we were beyond that. And secondly, that it would be economically destructive. So we need to make it very clear where we stand. Secondly, South African government needs to be aware that the law, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, under which South Africa trades with the United States, requires the President of the United States to expel countries from AGOA that do not respect property rights and due process. So South African government needs to be aware that if it changes the constitution and legalizes what is essentially theft of private property, it will be kicked out of AGOA, and further negative economic consequences will ensue.
Why would former President Barack Obama, just several weeks ago, publicly praise a racist like Cyril Ramaphosa? Why would he do that?
A lot of people hope that Cyril Ramaphosa is playing some sort of a three-dimensional chess, that he's just trying to appease the far left of his political party and the far left in the country, but that ultimately he doesn't really believe in what he explicitly says he believes. Cyril Ramaphosa has said that by expropriating the farmland, the privately owned farmland in South Africa, he's going to create the Garden of Eden in South Africa. He's going to turn South Africa into hell, just like Zimbabwe is a complete catastrophe. And so Barack Obama should pick up the phone, call Cyril Ramaphosa, and tell him that if he wants to continue to enjoy the good press he's been having, he needs to reverse policy that he is set on and behave in accordance with normal rules that define and characterize free countries.
Yeah, I wish he'd said that in public when he had the chance, but of course he didn't, being a coward. Marion, thank you very much for your deep knowledge on this subject. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So that's a tragedy. You just heard that. Keep in mind, our State Department right now supports race-based land seizures. We hope that policy changes. We'll be keeping abreast of it, obviously. Ahead, we have new information on the illegal immigrants suspected of murdering Molly Tibbetts, and we'll have it for you after the break. We're learning a lot more tonight about Cristian Bajeno Rivera, the illegal alien authorities say murdered Molly Tibbetts. Matt Finn is in Iowa, has been on the story since the very beginning. Matt?
Tucker, today Rivera's employees at a farm not far from here retracted their initial statement and now say that they did not use the federal E-Verify system to screen Rivera and that he is not the man they thought he was. Also today, a federal immigration official telling Fox News that Rivera never submitted a DACA request and has no record of any immigration status in this country. Earlier today, 24-year-old Christian Rivera was led into the Poweshiek County Courthouse in prison garb and shackles. I was able to ask him if he killed Molly Tibbetts, and he did not respond and remained stone-faced. In court, Rivera's defense requested media be banned today, arguing that this case has become too political. Even the president has commented on the case. The judge denied that request to ban the media today. Representatives from the Mexican consulate were in the courtroom today, and they tell Fox News afterward they felt Rivera was treated fairly. Tonight, Rivera is being held on a $5 million bond. Tucker.
Matt Finn for us in Iowa. Thanks a lot for that. All summer, Democrats have blasted the administration for temporarily separating illegal immigrant families at the border.
Unimaginably, they have ripped children away from their parents.
It is inhumane. It is cruel. When you take children away and separate families, you are doing the complete opposite of the values of this nation.
Those children should be with their moms and their dads.
Does the president think of children as accessories and not central to the purpose of family sanctity in our country?
Okay, the left says it's deeply opposed to splitting up families. So were they even more horrified watching an American citizen permanently separated from her family by an illegal alien? On CNN, Senator Elizabeth Warren provided a very clear answer. No. The real problem, she said, is family separations of illegal aliens. Watch.
I'm so sorry for the family here, and I know this is hard, not only for the family, but for the people in her community, the people throughout Iowa. But one of the things we have to remember is we need an immigration system that is effective, that focuses on where real problems are.
Where real problems are. Marian Mendoza is the mother of Police Sergeant Brandon Mendoza, who was killed by an illegal immigrant. She joins us tonight. Ms. Mendoza, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you,
Tucker. So when you hear a politician say, yeah, someone died and that's sad, but the real problem is how we treat people trying to sneak into our country illegally, what's your response to that?
I was disgusted by Senator Elizabeth Warren hearing her speak today, and what I want to say to her is stop lying to the American people, because you don't care what is happening to the victims of illegal alien crime, because if you did, you would be standing up for us and you would be doing something about it. We have pleaded with these politicians to do something to protect American citizens, and they are ramping up their protection of illegal alien criminals. And I just want to say, there are so many victims, Tucker. And when you think of Courtney Hacking in Texas and her husband and 2 children were killed and the illegal alien got 2 years, when you think of Sanders Cohen and Carlos Wolf in Maryland who were killed on the side of the road, and Maryland charged that illegal, $140 for each of the men he killed, and that's the only punishment he got. Is this what an American life is worth to our politicians and to our fellow Americans who don't understand this disgusting narrative that is happening in our country? And this has become political because it's the very politicians who are elected into office who are not doing a dang thing about this, and they're ignoring the American people crying for help, and they're stepping over dead American bodies in their rush to protect illegal alien criminals.
I don't think you're overstating that. I agree with everything you said, and I'm really sad about it. And I'm sad that you've felt the sting of these insane policies. Marianne Mendoza, thank you very much for joining us.
I want to just say that my heart goes out to the Tibbetts family, and God bless them. And I know what they're experiencing tonight, and I'm heartbroken. It's
unimaginable. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, one school district says, and keep in mind there's a revolution going on, so you're going to be shocked by this, but students can wear basically whatever they want because dress codes are sexist. Any dress code of any kind. Kathy Rue, our liberal Sherpa, will lead us through the naughty mess of sexism in dress codes next.